Yeah, yeah. Because I was, I was looking in doing the research on you. I looked at your website, and it reminded me of my early attempts at website creation.
Mm.
You
It's a
know,
very old website.
yeah,
Yeah.
I recognize the layout and what have you, but I had to do that myself. I had
Right.
to learn, so like you were just saying that you had to learn about streaming and all that stuff. But that's what it takes, unless you're fortunate enough that you can farm out everything, you end
Yeah.
up having to do stuff yourself, right? Okay, so let me do the intro, and we will get ourselves started, my friend. I got to move stuff around here for a second. All right, I think we're live. There he is. Oh man, look, all your countrymen are here. Paul Johnson's here, Terry Valor's here, Steve Mosley. Sweet, sweet. All your fans. All right. Well, hello guys. Hello everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, and welcome to the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues episode number 147. This is with Neil McLeod of McLeod Academy of Martial Art. As you're logging in, if you guys would be kind enough to say where you're logging in from, hit the like button and feel free to continue doing so throughout the dialogue. If you're catching the final edit video over on the YouTube, please be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell as well. If you enjoy my work and you'd like to support the program, please visit jkdrebel.com, click on the Rebel Gear link, and check out what we offer. But of course, the best thing you can do is to share this video and spread the word about the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. So my dialogue partner today is Neil. Have we met before, like in LA or something?
I don't think we have, because I would have remembered you. I would have.
That's I was thinking about that. Today, because I've seen the pictures of you and Mrs. McLeod and Jackie Rayner, in LA and what have you. And I'm like, man, I wonder if I was there, right? But I guess not.
It doesn't ring a bell at all.
Well, I'm going to tell everybody though, but I did reach out to you 2 years ago about coming on the program. And so shout out to Terry Valor and Phil. if
What you didn't realize, Dwight, is I was in zero pressure. I was behind you the whole time. My Carly, my numerado is so good. I was just there. You were looking.
Well, in any case, it's been a long time coming, but I really appreciate your making time for me today. So let's get started. Let's see, did I have it? No, I did. All that stuff that we talked about before when I was trying to add pictures and whatever, I did not add this one. Okay, so this picture I've used before. I used it a couple of weeks ago with Phil. And I used it originally with Bob Breen, right? So I know that you've seen that picture, but that's not the picture I want to talk about. I want you to tell me about this one.
Oh, killers. Bona fide killers. Yeah, that was taken at Bob's Academy, I believe. It would have been early 2000s. Early 2000s, yeah, when Guru had come over for a weekend seminar.
Okay. Now, is there a specific order? Because you're on obviously Bob's the leader, but you look like second in command. You look like the lieutenant.
Yeah, I think around that time I was. I think around that time I was the second in command. Yeah, I was the one up front doing a lot of the. I was doing teaching classes, so I was actually by the academy at that time. So I was teaching some classes. Plus, I was out there competing a lot of the time. So, yeah, and I've been with Bob a long time.
Right.
But insofar as the order of us all, not really. In fact, I think one of them's actually put in there. They weren't there on the day. in there. There's a secret. I won't say which one. That's not allowed.
Okay. So that competing thing that you just mentioned there, that was what, in kickboxing and stick fighting and everything?
In everything. I had when I was 18, I've been with Bob about, oh no, I would have been 19, 20. I'd been with Bob a couple of years, and I had one kickboxing match and one Thai boxing match.
Okay.
I'd actually was born with problems in my left hip, always had problems with my left hip, still to this day. So in my second kickboxing match, my hip just went crack.
Oh,
So that put me out of commission on that for the time. So then I started competing in the stick fighting, which, I really loved. Really loved.
yeah. Well, okay. So I was going to get into that later, but let's do it now, because I noticed that both you and Mrs. McLeod were single stick and double stick champion in the stick fighting. Okay. So tell me about the training strategies for single stick competition and double stick competition. Are they similar? Are they different? Are they what?
To me, I looked at double stick as exactly the same as single stick, but I can hit you twice as much.
I love it.
My strategies did not change whatsoever.
Yeah.
It was precisely the same.
Okay. Yeah, detail those strategies for me then, just a little bit.
Well, I was always into attack by drawing. Always, even in my empty hands, it's always been attack by drawing. And I think it's because I'm light. You know, I'm 135 pounds, so a real light person. So I had really good reactions, which obviously have gone with age. But at that time, my reactions were really good. So attack by drawing. So I'd lure them. Normally, I'd lure them. Say I'd strike an angle one or strike on top of their head, luring them into blocking and countering. But I'd counter their counter. So I'd almost like if you look at it as umbrella 3, one, bam, and I'd get them on that last shot. And I was very, very good at the vine disarm. If I had hold of your stick, you were getting vine disarm.
That was it. Oh, sweet. Okay.
Not anymore, but back then.
Doesn't matter. I asked you that for selfish reasons. I'm gonna use those strategies on Sunday when we have our little get together.
Excellent.
What did you attack by drawing in empty hands also?
Yes. Yeah.
How so? What was your tool?
Going half guard, going like a half guard like this, so similar to chambering in Krav, but just inviting shots into this area so I can attach to the arm to perform, say, lapsals, or just luring it so I can then slip and hit the body, do an outside triple. Just real simple tactics, but just luring the attack.
Okay. That term you just used, outside triple, that's a pure boxing term, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay,
well, Bob Breen is heavily.
Right.
It's funny how many of my students over the years have said, "Oh, I want to get really good at boxing. I'm going to go and see a boxing coach." And I'm like, man, that's all we did. In the early 90s, that's all we did with Bob. It was box, lock him, box. So it was all about boxing, but then with the little Silat and Kali and Jim Fan elements put into it. But it was always off boxing. Boxing was the main thing.
When I was talking with Phil Norman, and he mentioned you, and you just said that you're 100. He's not much heavier than that, right?
I think he's a lot heavier, Phil.
Really?
Yeah, he's a lot taller. He's a tall man. Yeah.
But did you guys come up at the same time? Because refresh my memory, didn't he corner you and you cornered him?
No, he was a referee. He was a referee.
That's what it was.
Yeah. So he was way my senior. He was involved in this long before me.
Okay. It's impossible to talk about JKD in England without mentioning Bob Breen and Dan Inosanto, of course, right? But like I told Phil, there are names that I've heard floating around over the years, right? So there's yours, there's the confusion people have between Andy Norman and Phil Norman, right? And then Terry Barnett and what have you. You actually, okay, so are you senior to Terry Barnett or is he senior to you?
Terry Barnett's my senior. Yeah.
Okay.
Terry Barnett was a student of Bob Breen back in the karate days when Terry was 12 years old, I believe. And they both went through into the JKD arena. They're both full instructors. They're my seniors. So I trained with both Bob Breen and Terry Barnett from 1991.
Okay. That's interesting. How did you pronounce his last name? Barnett?
Barnett.
Right. We call that Barnett.
You know what? I don't know. I just call him Tell.
Okay, so now the other thing that I'm thinking about, Bob Breen gets everybody their start, so to speak, right? And when I said that you cannot talk about JKD in England without mentioning Inosanto and Bob Breen 100%, because I'm sure, just like here in the US, there are people whose lineage doesn't come through Inosanto, right? So, but I know who I'm talking to, so right, I know when it applies and when it doesn't. But England's not that big,
No.
so did everybody went off? Did everybody set up their stuff like really close to everybody else, or?
No, not really, because there was only a handful of main instructors really directly under Dan, and they were spread out far enough to be able to run their own businesses, and some of them weren't teaching full time. Some of them had other businesses.
Okay.
So, and I think that goes for a lot of the UK instructors that were then put onto Guru Dan's apprenticeship scheme. A lot of them, that wasn't their job. They weren't instructors. That was their personal training. So they were the program, but they weren't teaching themselves as such. They had their own jobs.
Okay. Are you full time?
Yeah.
Martial art? Yeah.
I don't know anything else.
Exactly. Right. Exactly. I mean, you know, I think it's the funnest thing to do as a profession, but it's not for everybody.
No.
Right. What was the decision to go into martial art full time?
It's what I wanted to do before I even started martial arts.
How so? Really?
Yeah, I knew it's what I wanted to do. As soon as I saw the Karate Kid, as soon as I saw that, probably saw that in 1985. As soon as I saw that, I was like, yeah, I could do that, and I could teach. I could teach. You know, so it was something I always wanted to do, but at that time, I wasn't even training martial arts.
Right.
But I knew it was what I wanted to do.
That's radical. Okay, so what was the first step you took?
First step I took after the Karate Kid, it was trying to persuade my parents to allow me to take lessons. So I wasn't allowed to take lessons. We weren't particularly affluent, so I was just going to the library and picking up karate books, and one that was Korean karate. It was Taekwondo, but it said Korean karate.
I know the one.
I was literally just JKDing it. I was just going through books, and I'd set up a punch bag and speedball in my parents' garage. So it was like no retreat, no surrender. It was that kind of garage. Everything was set up, and I was just training on my own every day, constantly.
Huh. How did you know to set up the heavy bag and the speed bag? Because that's not in the Korean karate book.
No, that's in No Retreat, No Surrender.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, there was an obvious progression and evolution to what I was doing.
Right.
While I was doing that. And I didn't actually take my first karate lesson until 1986. That would have been just before my 13th birthday.
Okay.
And I was
Man, you're young. Jeez.
Oh yeah. I had 2 months training, and then for reasons out of my hands, I had to stop. But what I had noticed was in that 2 months, I do 1 hour a week training under the sensei, but I would then repeat for an hour a day everything I did in that class. So I'd get 7 training sessions as opposed to 1. And I'd done that for the 2 months. So what happened at that 2 months, I noticed in the class that my technique was good. And I knew it was down to me just repeating it. So I just repeated that again. So back in the garage, I'd done another 1.5 years on my own, just from books and movies, obviously watching movies. And then I started training with Alvin Mighty in Lao Ga Kung Fu, which was a southern style of Kung Fu. So it had similar techniques to Wing Chun in the traditional forms, but then it also had that kind of sport, back fist, reverse punch, ridge hand, kind of flicky kick stuff as well.
Yeah, I've heard of Lao Gar. Tell me, was that authentic Chinese, or was that a creation of somebody in England?
You know, I couldn't tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you. Certainly the sports side, the popular part of it, as opposed to the traditional forms, that was just the kind of across the board competition, sport contact fighting, which you had, you know, Taekwondo guys were doing it, karate guys were doing it. What you'd call freestyle, I suppose. Semi-contact, freestyle, point karate.
All right, so now you're about 15 years of age. So we still have 3 years before you get to Bob Breen, right? Okay, so what happened in that time span?
Yeah, so by that time, I then went to I decided if I really, well, the Kung Fu school closed down.
Okay.
So the instructor had moved. He was traveling a long way to teach the classes anyway. So he ended up closing the school. So I decided, look, if I'm going to be able to do this really good, I'm going to have to go and study in London. I'm going to have to find a club in London. So my dad worked for British Rail at the time. So I used to get free travel. I'm on the trains. So it was great. So I didn't have to pay for my travel at that time. And I think it got to a point where I got a discount, but it was never full price.
Okay.
So I started studying Wing Chun with Sifu Austin Go, just outside of Chinatown in London. So I was going down there once a week on a Sunday afternoon to train with him. And that lasted about, I'd say about 1.5 years. About 1.5 years with him. And then I moved to Bob Breen. But the reason I moved to Bob Breen, it's funny, because I was a fan of Jeet Kune Do and Bruce Lee before I'd seen Bruce Lee.
Right.
So I hadn't seen Bruce Lee on the screen. I'd read about him in magazines. I'd seen him in the Green Hornet when I was a child, but that's just a memory that's just, I remember his name, the word
that guy.
on the screen. So, but that's it.
Yeah.
But so I actually had the Tao of Jeet Kune Do before I'd even seen Bruce Lee. So I'd read the Tao of Jeet Kune Do, and I was reading books on Zen and all that sort of stuff, and Alan Watts on Zen books and Taoism, Tao Te Ching. And I was only 13, 14 when I was reading these books. So that's probably a bit strange for a child that age to kind of delve down that route anyway. I always deep down that I'd have to go outside the norm of going into local church halls and community centres to study. If I want to study, I've got to go to a real school. So that's why I thought I'd follow Bruce Lee's route and do Wing Chun. So that was it. So I was a proper Bruce Lee geek. I still am. I mean,
yeah.
I still am.
Yeah. Look at this.
I mean, my wardrobe is just for Christmas. I just get new Bruce Lee gear. That's all I get. It's like, and I'm so excited.
Yeah. Okay. So, what was your first session with Bob like? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do. Because I came from a Wing Chun background at that time. I can remember in the sparring, I had my hands in like a tan sao in the front hand, and my Wu was behind like this, and we were boxing sparring. Yeah. You're talking. I was 17 at the time, so I'm there, and Bob goes, "Get your guard up." So I just raised my tan sao higher. Just ridiculous looking back. And although if I had attacked my drawing, I could have used it, but unfortunately I didn't have those skills back then. And Bob said to my sparring partner, he says, if he doesn't keep his hands up, just hit him. And yeah, I ate some left hooks that night, I tell you.
Oh my God.
But yeah, no, my first session with Bob Breen was it was an eye-opener. I love the fact there was focus mitts. It was very boxing orientated, and Bob taught with such a down-to-earth, you know, East London down-to-earth teaching, just straight to the point, no nonsense. You know, that really I really liked, because that to me spoke of the JKD. It was just, yeah, that's JKD.
Right.
Yeah, and it was all simple, direct, as I say, very boxing orientated.
Okay. So then Inasano comes over. What's your first experience of Inasano?
Or just or.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in his 60s then, but he was moving just, I mean, you know, Dwight, you see him now and he's amazing now, but you remember the days when, and you were before me, so it must have been amazing before then, but the 1990s, the early 90s, all the way through to the millennium, just watching that guy move was just, oh,
yeah,
just unbelievable. And the first seminar, we'd done a plethora of arts. So we had a section on, you know, the Kali, we'd done flexible weaponry. That was on the first seminar I'd done with him, so that was really good. Flexible weaponry, we'd done a load of JKD, band trapping. We'd done shoot wrestling flows as well. I remember those. We'd done shoot wrestling flow 1 and 2. It was great because that was all new. I mean, this was 1990. Sorry, it wasn't 91. It was 92. 1990. Okay. Was it? Yeah, 92.
Did you ever question, because you know some people they've had a journey similar to yours where their introduction and their initial foray into Jeet Kune Do was all on their own. Then they go to an official JKD person or official JKD place, but they start to question what they're receiving because they have their idea.
Yeah, you know, I don't think I questioned anything I was being taught, because, and even still, when I look at traditional, what's classed as, say, traditional martial arts, I don't question what's being taught so much insofar as does it work or doesn't it work, is it functional? I just look at it and say, what is the reasoning behind this? Because there has to be a reasoning. Else, why do it? Else, why do it? I mean, if it is completely illogical, I think that'd be pretty obvious. I would have thought so anyway. You know, I've got that critical eye where I could say, no, that's nonsense. But you know, as you study the arts over time, I mean, even now on a weekly basis, and that's no joke, training with my wife, you see stuff and you're like, oh God, yeah, that applies. That applies. That's, you know, the stuff that I would have thrown out a long time ago that I've had to come back to just because of my wife as a training partner.
Yeah. Huh.
Especially the trapping stuff, the trapping stuff, the Wing Chun counters to Park Sao Lap Sao. I need them now. You know, right. I need them because she's going to compound trap me. If I'm boxing with her, she's going to compound trap me. It's just, you know, people say compound trapping doesn't work. I say, try sparring my wife. You're going to get double lap salve. You're going to get Park Sao Lap Sao, and you ain't got a choice about it.
Yeah. Wow. So before COVID forced you to do online classes, something I noticed on the website was that, verify this for me. All levels train in the same class at the same time? Yes. Okay. So how do you split them up in any way, or everybody gets everything?
Everyone mixes around. If there was two people that would prefer to stay together for whatever reasons, maybe they're new, they've come with a girlfriend, or it's two friends joining in, I allow them just to hang together, have a taste of the session, that kind of thing. But generally, just mix around because, as you know, martial arts is fundamentals. It's all fundamentals. So we'd show, if I was going to go into anything more complicated, like a longer combination, I add that to the fundamental that we're showing. So there'll be a fundamental technique, and then on top of that, you can then go into X, Y, Z. And that's the way I've always structured my classes, because I feel if you've got a healthy environment in the class where people aren't beating on other people, but they're helping, everyone's growing at the same rate. Do you know what I mean? You're helping each other. And I think part of this art, for you to understand it and grow, is the ability to teach others, because you have to break it down. You have to break it technique down and have a deeper understanding of it. So I think that's part of the growth. You have to be a teacher, even if it's to students.
Have you done any reading or research on Bruce Lee as a teacher?
Other than the stuff I've read in the books, the magazines, and from Guru Dan, nothing deeper than anyone else. No.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, you'll hear Sifu and Asano say sometimes that Bruce Lee hated the big classes. You know, he preferred like the one-on-one structure and what have you. But then in there's a whole section on what it takes to be a good instructor. Right, and I read that and I was like, wow, I never thought that Bruce Lee would be the one that actually investigated, even if he didn't apply it, right? Yeah. But he did investigate what it took to be a good instructor, and it just made me think once again, there's nothing that Jeet Kune Do lacks. You know what I mean? There's nothing that Jeet Kune Do lacks. So then it begs the question, why is it not as popular, or why has its popularity decreased in the past couple of decades? Do you think it, what do you think? Why do you think?
I mean, there could be many reasons for that. It could be insofar as mixed martial arts is huge now. It's huge. There's a sport, and you know, one could argue that that's a sport variable of Jeet Kune Do. You know, one could argue that or not. Others will say no. You know, Jeet Kune Do is strictly Bruce Lee's art and philosophy, which is kind of what I think. I think, to me, when I say what Jeet Kune Do is, it's Bruce Lee's art and philosophy, and I like to put it in that box. And I know that those philosophies and principles can be applied across the board of life and other art, whether it be music, dance, you know, film directing, whatever, wherever it may be. I understand that, and those principles can be applied in a sport environment in boxing or wrestling or MMA.
Let me interrupt you for a second. The reason why you know that is because you were reading Zen and Taoism at 13.
Could be.
That's why, right? I think that a lot of people who have not read much on philosophy, they don't get the philosophical aspect of Jeet Kune Do at all. It doesn't resonate with them.
You know, that could simply be a personality thing, because you know how personality affects even the way you fight. You know, if you're a shy, timid person, good luck using intercepting techniques. Because you're not that way bent. You might have that kind of just that natural flinch kind of aspect. So if someone raises their hand, you naturally start to flinch because you're that kind of personality. Whereas if you're an aggressive personality, you'd say, "What's the concept?" Well, you got to punch them in the face. Oh, okay, bosh. You know.
Yeah.
You know, I think if you're a more aggressive personality, the idea of intercepting someone's attack is obviously going to come to you a lot easier. Whereas a timid person, no. So I think with regards to the JKD philosophy, if you're not that person that's kind of used to being standing out of the crowd, or maybe being the nail that stands above the rest, if you're not that person, that kind of oddball that feels slightly different to others, then maybe JKD isn't for you. Can you see? I think in some ways you have to be almost an introvert, because it's a personal study. It's a personal study. It's everything you've experienced, not just martial arts wise, but across the board. And then and that's expressing JKD in your daily life, isn't it? It's expressing yourself honestly.
Were you that person?
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, always.
Wow.
You know, a really good example of that is we had a charity over here called Comic Relief, or Red Nose Day it was, where you donate 50 pence to the charity and you'd get a plastic red nose.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And, it was the first one, and we were all in school, and I thought, oh, this is nice, you know, money for a charity. And then the teacher in the register, she says, well, I'm going to go down the register. Everyone who wants a red nose, say yes, and I'll tick you off. And I sat there and I thought, I don't want a red nose. I'm not going to be able to wear the red nose in school, which was part of the rules. You weren't allowed to. But I thought, actually, I don't actually want a red nose. So, and I said to my friend next to me, actually, I won't name him. I said, I don't want a red nose. Do you? And he goes, no, not really. I said, well, I'm saying no. So anyway, it went down the register. Yes, 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 yes. It got to me. Neil, I said, no. And of course, the whole class went boo. And I said, wait a minute. I'll donate 50p to the charity. I just don't want a red nose. I don't get it. And then it got to my friend. Booze. He was like, yeah, I'll have a red nose. But yeah, I was always that person. I mean, even insofar as when I was training in my parents' garage, I'd be out with all my friends, and we'd be training. You know, we'd be playing football or hide and seek or something like that. All the old school games you play as a British schoolboy. And I'd look at the time and go, oh, I haven't had my hours training yet. And I'd be like, right, guys, I've got to go home. And I'd go home because it'd go in my training diary, it'd go in my log. So I'd do my hours training in the garage, and then I'd come back. I'd be like, I'm back, yeah, and then I'd carry on playing football or wherever it was. So I was definitely an oddball, without a doubt. But I had a vision. I knew.
I would say so. You were definitely strange. I was not like that at all. Yeah, like I never missed out on dates with girls because of martial art. No, never, not once. No.
I never didn't buy a Valentine's Day present because I wanted to see Rocky IV. You know?
Right.
Again.
Okay, so now, have you ever had to bring that out, that oddball character? Did you ever have to try to inspire that or bring that out in someone? Like maybe somebody you were coaching for fighting or something?
No, I mean, no. I mean, I always promoted that people should express themselves. Obviously, I mean that's a done thing. I'm all for people expressing themselves, whether I like it or not. Because everyone's experience is completely different, and you've got to acknowledge that's one thing as a coach. Oh gosh, as a martial arts instructor, I really had to. Oh, hard to swallow was people aren't me.
Right.
People aren't people aren't going to do the reps that you're doing, Neil. And I knew they weren't going to do the reps I was doing because I was obsessed. I was absolutely obsessed, and that's one thing I've got. I've got a very obsessive nature. If I'm interested in something, I will delve into it, really deep, and that could be in either areas of martial arts. Like when I got into MMA, I had to get really deep into the ground game. I just had to. It was forced upon me. In fact, that's why I booked my first mixed martial arts fight. Before it was mixed martial arts, I booked myself a fight, so I had to learn to grapple.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. See, now that's not normal. That's not normal. Most people would train first and then go compete.
Yeah. Well,
right.
I was being a black belt under Bob Breen. I was great in all the up to that point to the late 90s. I was great at all the boxing, the Muay Thai, all the trapping stuff, the weaponry that I had down. I mean, I look back now and I'd say I didn't have it down, obviously, but back then it felt that I had it down. I'd certainly, could hold my own with everyone else, even at my weight. However, once it hit the floor and you had all the lower level people at the academy now getting good at grappling, who were bigger, stronger, heavier than me, then suddenly I've got a problem. So it became a necessity, and it's so easy to shy away from the things that you're not good at. Obviously, the things you're not comfortable with. But I'm a JKD guy. I had to learn to grapple, and I needed something, a kick up the backside to learn to grapple. And that would be, at this date, you're going to be fighting someone, and he's probably going to grapple with you. So you better learn to grapple.
Okay. So what was the first step towards that? Where'd you go for that?
First thing was Eric Paulson DVDs or VHS videos.
Yes.
VHS videos. I mean, Eric was coming over to the academy on a regular basis each year and teaching seminars. And Eric's seminars, they'd just be like, one seminar, he'd give you a couple of years information. I mean,
Yeah.
there's some of Eric's tapes that you could train everything on that tape, and you'd have everything you need to have a fight. You know,
Right. Yeah. No, you're quite right. Yeah.
Just genius.
Yeah. My favorite was the quick kills. Yeah, I love that series.
That was great.
Yeah. That guy Paulson, man, I too much going on up here. I can't. I mean, you know, you see that guy and you go, and you think, but Eric, that's Pencak Silat that you're doing, right? And he's just woven it seamlessly into whatever else.
It's that shape recognition. It's that shape recognition with the subconscious, or the unconscious. I don't want to upset people, whatever. The other part, not aware of, where that's recognizing shapes. Knows at that shape you've got this option, and of course that option is going to be whatever you've drilled.
Right.
Okay? If you put your 10,000 reps or whatever hours into that shape doing this response, that's what's going to come out.
I found that Kali helped me with that shape recognition.
Yeah, massively. Carly's helped my JKD so much. You know, there's kind of been a progression where I noticed that learning trapping, and even though I did Wing Chun first, I couldn't apply trapping against someone who wasn't Wing Chun as such.
Yeah.
Just because we didn't have the timing from boxing and stuff like that. But then when I went to Bob and Terry Barnett, everything was done off boxing. All the drills were trapping off boxing. How do we get it to work off boxing? So it was always off boxing. So by understanding the trapping and actually making my Wing Chun way better, I learned more about Wing Chun doing JKD than I did while I was studying Wing Chun. Now, I'm not blaming the instructor. I was a 16-year-old kid, so I blame myself more than anything. But the trapping, understanding the inside and outside gates, the over and holding centerline energies, that made me understand kind of the gates in boxing as well.
Right.
It was almost like a matrix. You could kind of, there's grid. And then when I started doing the stick and dagger and the weaponry, that was like, there's sectors up that way and this way and over on that. And it just gave me a deeper understanding. Even if I just end up going jab, cross, hook, that cross hook is coming from a deeper understanding. So whether people say, you wouldn't use that in a fight or that in a fight, no, there's a different thing going on. It's almost like a Terminator options. You know, there's something else going on, even though I might just jab you in the face.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I find. That's what I think Carly has done for my personal martial arts.
So you had then with Wing Chun, you had a similar experience to Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Interesting.
Never completed the system.
Right.
Yeah. Jumped to Bob Breen and just went, wow. now I can actually do this. This is great.
Okay. Tell me about first trip to Los Angeles.
First trip to Los Angeles. The first trip to Los Angeles, I was competing in my second World Championships in a screamer. And that was in 1996. Great time. I'd won the World Championships, which was great because I'd got a bronze in the Philippines 2 years earlier,
right?
Which was my first World Championships. But this time I got the gold, which I was really pleased with. And during that week, I went and trained with Higan Machado at his Redondo Beach school. I trained with Vunak at his house, which was awesome. That was really good. And obviously I went to see Guru Dan at his academy for the first time, which was fantastic.
Yeah. So, okay. And then Rick Fay, how'd you come to him?
Rick Fay, I'd been to one of Rick Fay's seminars in the late 90s, I think it was, just once, about a 2-hour drive from where I am in a place called Cambridge. And that's the only time I'd trained with him. And then he started coming down and doing camps.
Right.
And I just wanted to get more training. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to start attending camps. So I started doing his 4-day camps that he started doing on the south coast of England. And I basically just wanted to train. I just wanted more It was like, oh, great, here's a full instructor in JKD. He's doing 24 hours of training over 4 days. So I just kept going and seeing him and then attending his seminars. And then I was asked by Brendan Westwood, the late Brendan Westwood, rest in peace. I was asked by him whether I'd like to join the instructor program. And I said, if it means more training, yeah, if it means more training, you know, if there's extra instructor training, I'll jump on board. So that's how I got involved with Rick Fay.
Right. Yeah. Now, so with all this stuff, right? Because we've talked about 4 sources of information: Bob Breen, Dan Inosanto, Rick Fay, and Eric Paulson.
Mm-hmm.
How then what's your strategy for taking all that stuff and now teaching it back out to your students?
It's the same stuff.
Okay.
It's the same stuff. Yeah. When I see Bob Breen doing his 4D, and then I look at Phil Norman doing his Ghost, I just see Numerado. They're doing the same thing.
Okay.
But it's just expressed differently. So again, It comes back to a principle-based art, doesn't it? It comes back to principle-based. I mean, and people will go, "Oh, that's not JKD." And it's like, well, who cares? Who cares? I just see the principle that they're doing. They're zoning away from the other hand, trying to get behind you. Yeah. Which, if that isn't scientific street fighting, I don't know what is.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Tell me what you think of this. Because this is what I think. People who look at Ghost, look at 4D and go, well, that's not JKD, are looking at the art and not the philosophy of JKD. What do you say to that?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's definitely a possibility. I mean, I myself still like to refer to JKD as Bruce Lee's art and philosophy, and that just to me, that just simplifies it for my own liking. But as we say, Bruce Lee's philosophy can be applied to any art, whether it's combative or musical. Oh, look at that! See the art and philosophy of Bruce Lee.
Yeah, that's why this book is always close at hand.
Yeah, yeah, but it is, and then. I really do think by understanding the philosophy, that kind of what's really interesting, if you look at double stick variations, so you look at the Kali arts and how, at least in the Inosanto lineage, the way it's broken down, 3 highs, 3 lows, high, low, high, etc., etc. And then you look at Bruce's way, consider the counters to a left-hander, consider the counters and then you look at the list and it's like, well, that's double stick. That's the same kind of philosophy. It's the same mindset. You can see the kind of same way of thinking, all the different variables.
Yeah. I just pointed that out to somebody asked me a question about doing the work, and I pointed them to pages in the commentaries on the martial way where that's Bruce Lee's notes. Consider this, consider that. Well, that's what we were taught to do on our own. Yeah. That's what I think that when you go to an Inosanto seminar, for example, you are presented with him having done that work. That's his seminar material. His seminar material, especially I think when Mrs. Inosanto came along, that her contribution was, okay, well, let's write it out and make a chart of it. Right, that you can show, that you can display on seminar. But I think it was what they came up with answering those questions.
Yeah.
What is my counter to a left stancer's this, to a right stancer's whatever? How do I use grappling as a counter to whatever else? Right? Yeah, which is, but see, you were doing that without even being told to do that as a kid. Yeah. You were asking questions.
Well, as I say, I was reading the JKD philosophy. My first book of Bruce Lee's was the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. And you read that first chapter, you're like, what? What? I mean, to me, that the voidness, is that which stands right in the middle of this and that. That quote is just, to me, that's beautiful. It really is. To this day, it's my favorite Bruce Lee quote. And, you know, I can contemplate on that for hours. It's just, it's so deep. It's so deep. And so I was doing, whether, you know what? Here's a story. I was, when I was 14, I was on my parents' garage floor on, my mats, it was a concrete floor, so my mat was just a sheet, a bed sheet. That's my mat. So I was on the garage floor wrestling around with a friend of mine from school, and I got stuck between his legs. I was on my knees, he was on his back, and he pinned me between his legs, crossed his legs, and squeezed hard. The guard position. And this was 1987. Never grappled in my life, but I knew that grappling was important. Inside the guard, I get my ribs squeezed. I turn sideways. I go, it doesn't hurt anymore. So my first introduction to the guard was just through fighting, just through doing it. So I think if you are just going to express yourself, you'll find it. You'll find it if you study. If you study, whether it's books, whether it's instructors, whether it's DVDs, videos, online training, whatever resource you can get. If you've got that mind, if you've got that kind of way of thinking, and more importantly, if you've got the will to do it, you've got the will to put in 10,000 reps on a technical combination, that technical combination, you're going to feel it in your body. There's going to be a point where you feel that it's yours. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Any athletic, I think any good athletic kid could do that. I really do. I really do. I think they can.
Do you encourage that approach, the adoption of that approach to your students?
Without a doubt, I encourage whatever way helps them learn. Whatever way helps them learn. I mean, people say you can't learn off DVD or videotape. I know that's not true because I've done it myself.
Right.
I mean, my first belt awarded in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was a purple belt, and I'd hardly attended a Jiu-Jitsu class. But that was my first belt, and that was just through doing it, just through getting the reps in and doing it. And there's little bits here and there that you need to tweak as you go along in your martial arts journey, obviously. But with regards to what I was doing the right thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think if you can, you've got to say Eric Paulson's got a photographic memory, which is something I'm pretty gifted with as well, thankfully. So if I watch a DVD a couple of times, I can kind of replay the main bits of it and kind of it's there. So watching Eric's DVDs a couple of times, I could walk away and go, there it is, that one. Yeah, from there I do that. Yeah. So I can kind of store that. So I'm quite gifted. Maybe that's why me and Eric are kind of like a bit.
Yeah. Oh man, I envy all you guys that have that photographic memory, because I don't. I gotta plod through it, man. You know, do it over and over again. All right, let's do some more picture commentary. What's this?
That's me versus Paul McVeigh the second time round. Yeah, I lost that fight. TKO, strike from the mount.
Okay. What year was that?
That would have been 2006. 2006. Shouldn't have taken the fight. I took the fight on 5 days' notice. But I got a call. He said, Neil, do you want 500 quid? You come and fight for a title. I was like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. But, you know, in regards to my fight career, I never took it seriously because at that time, it was MMA didn't exist. At that time, when I fought Paul, MMA did exist. But I had my first fight in 2000, and it was all NHB, just no hold barred, it was called, or valet. The MMA word wasn't there. So to me, it was just a way of testing my skills. I had one fight, test my skills, come back, and then you get a call from the promoter a couple of days later. You've done really well. The next one's then they've got you, right? and that's what all it was. I never took it. I never wanted to be a superstar in MMA or any of that, because that didn't exist. And I know the UFC had my tapes, but there was no weight category for me. I didn't have a weight category now, but I'm 10 years too late.
Okay, so I asked Phil Norman this, but again, as somebody who's had the experience of going in the ring numerous times, right? So what are the benefits of competing and the benefits of not competing?
Right. Well, let's start with the benefits of not competing.
Okay.
The benefit of a supportive partner. I think that could be really challenging. Yeah. I never suffered with that, which was fantastic. Rachel was just like by my side 100%. I mean, I didn't have my first pro fight until I had my first child. I had my first child, then I was like, yeah, let's start fighting. And I started fighting. That's how you do it, right?
Right. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I mean, I'd say things like that. Probably things aside from brain damage and injuries to your body and things like that, because it does take wear and tear. It does take wear and tear on you. I mean, Eric Paulson used to say, for every fight you have, you get a year's experience. So I would calculate, okay, so if I fight 4 times in a year and have the year, that's 5 years experience in a year. So if I'd done that every year, how good could I get? And yeah, you can get good, but you got to remember that your body wears and tears at the same rate. So you get your 5 years experience or your 4 years experience each year. But actually your body is deteriorating as well, just because you're putting so many hours in. You know, you're just hurt the whole time. But that's part of it. If you want to compete and win a belt or be a champion in anything, you know, who said it's going to be healthy?
Yeah. Yeah.
And right, the benefits of competing. Yeah, I think the benefits of competing is mental more than anything. It's just, you just feel good about yourself because you've done it, especially for a man competing in a fight. To me, that's whether without a weapon, the fact that you're standing in front of someone and you're going to go toe to toe. There's something Neanderthal about that, but that really, it's
no, you're right.
It's this. It's just afterwards you're just like, I did that.
Yeah.
I did that. And if you do that, I mean, the best thing that happened to me was lose. My second fight I lost, absolute barn burner of a fight. A guy called Danny Batten, awesome martial artist, really great. He runs a really successful mixed martial arts gym now. Fantastic. And he was the first guy that I fought that could actually fight really well on the ground. And we both were ill. We both were injured. Both of us admit we should never have taken that fight. It was all wrong, but both of us being stupid, well, yeah, we'll fight. We had a solid fight. He ended up, I think he fractured his hand on my face from the mount. So I was looking up at him and smiling at him. He fractured his hand on my face. Then he broke my arm, and it was just chaos. But yeah, losing was the best thing, because after that, it was like, a weight's off me. There was just felt a weight off me. And then it was from then, it was like, I can now fight at any time. Doesn't matter. If I lose, who cares? Doesn't matter. You know, that was the best thing that happened to me. That kind of like losing that, that air of mystique. Oh, is he going to lose? Because especially in the stick fighting world, I was just bashing everyone. There was a point where, well, when I went to the World Championships in '96, I was signing T-shirts. Neil McLeod, World Champion '96. Before the competition started, I was signing. I was just like, no, I'm going to do this. And honestly, you know, not being arrogant or cocky. There's moments in your life where you just know. You just know, and you can't explain it. You don't know what it is. I don't know whether it's divine or I don't know. You just know. You know, and I just knew. I was there, and I just thought, no one's going to touch me. And looking back at some of those fights back then, it was it was so good, so good. Not so good as I'm so good, but I was. But more just the experience. I think the experience, competing, the experience you get when you compete, just that feeling afterwards.
Yeah.
And my children, I put my children into fighting everything. Both my daughters, I've got 2 daughters, and they fought full contact stick fighting. They fought international judo, and they fought MMA, amateur MMA, with no headshots.
Is that them?
Yeah, that's them, my 2 pretties.
Well, I mean, I got to tell you, you did it. You did a good job there.
Yeah, I don't know how.
Yeah. I was not going to show you this until the very end of our little talk because my quest. So I'll do it now because I mean we're coming up on 60 minutes anyhow. So on a scale of 1 to 5, under no pressure whatsoever because of this photograph, how happy are you?
Oh, 1 to 5. 5 being the highest. I'd say with the family, I've got 5 without a
Yeah.
doubt.
I saw this picture and I go, I'm gonna ask him how happy he is because you can see it in that photograph. It's a great.
I'd had a couple of Peronis. That's true. That's true. That was a Christmas meal. That was a
Yeah.
Christmas meal. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a great picture. The thing is, since we're talking about pictures, you weren't able to send me anything other than this.
Training wise with Guru Dan, actually 1-to-1 with Guru Dan, I've got no pictures.
Right.
I've got no
but
pictures.
Let me ask you, is this guy that guy? That's not the same guy, right?
No. That's my father-in-law on the other picture.
Okay.
No, that's my best man, Tim Harding. And we were both awarded our apprenticeship under Guru Dan back in '98 at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's funny because he went to the same school as me, the grammar school.
Okay.
So he knew me from when I was 14, and I was in the library reading a martial arts book.
Right.
And he come up behind me and he said, I said, excuse me, because we'd seen each other and we kind of kept clocking each other for a few weeks. But anyway, he came up behind me and said, excuse me, is there anything in that book about Bruce Lee? And I said, yeah. So we sat down, we started reading, and we got to become great mates. And
Wow.
yeah, we traveled and trained together for years. Yeah. And then we both got married and etc. etc. Life goes apart, but we're still in contact. We say hi.
Okay. So you mentioned being married. How do you find a training partner and then marry her? Or which one happened first? How did it go?
Well, I met Rachel at a friend's house. She was 17 years old. I met her at a friend's house, and within 51 weeks of meeting each other, we were married. Yeah. I just knew. In fact, I knew when I saw her coming into the room. I looked at her and I was like, oh my God. And I just knew, and I was just like, right, that's it. Yeah. Yeah, we were married within a year. And then my front room, when she came into my house, my front room was mats in the front room, a wooden dummy up against the wall, a grappling dummy hanging on one side of the wall, because I was teaching private lessons in my front room.
You know that's at certain locations that was the Inasano front room, right?
Yeah, I could believe it. But I was constantly asking Rachel, oh, could you just do this for me? Could you just give me your hand so I can do that? Now do this. Put your hand there, and now I'll do this. And I'd just get reps with her. But then I'd have to show her certain techniques so I could learn my counters.
Mm-hmm.
But this would keep going on and on. And it got to a point where I was like, actually, you know more than most of my students now. And she wasn't even training officially. She was just at home. I'd just grab her and I'd do 2 hours reps of something with her. And she'd just be doing it with me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, time would fly. We go, oh, it's 3 a.m. We better go to bed. Yeah, she got so good. I said, look, you should take this up because you're not even training yet, but you know all this stuff. You know, so you should just start training. And she's Irish. She's up for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard the funniest Irish joke the other day. I'll mess it up, but so it's like two guys, right? Two guys are having a bash, and this Irish guy walks by and he says, "Is this a private fight or can anybody get in?"
That sounds about right. That could probably be the same in Scotland. That could work with Scottish.
Oh yeah.
Oh, without a doubt.
Oh my God.
And that's one thing about fighting, you know. I mean, I grew up in a fairly nice neighbourhood when I lived in Scotland for the first 8 years of my life.
Mm-hmm.
Rough and tough fighting was part of our growing up here. That was normal in Scotland. I don't know whether that was the norm in England, but certainly in Scotland that was normal. So it was very rough and tough, you know, boisterous play with you. I had an older brother as well, so that, of course, I got a good kicking off him.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
one thing that you know, you grow up play fighting, right? So then, as you age, and then you start to actually fight. I was trying to focus when I was fighting, of just ignoring this as a fight, but it's a play. We're going in and we're play fighting.
Mm-hmm.
See, so rather than looking at it as it's a fight, I really wanted to get that mindset of like, hey, we're just in here playing.
Yeah.
This is just a game. You know, it's like ping pong, but there's pain involved. But as you know, when you get hit and your adrenaline's pumping, pain doesn't hurt.
Right.
That's the best thing about fighting, and that's an amazing thing about the human body. It really is. You know, does pain hurt? Because when I'm fighting, pain doesn't hurt. Pain's just like, oh, you acknowledge it,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't go, oh, you're not going to get kicked in the leg and go, oh, you really hurt my leg, unless there's damage, obviously. But
Yeah.
you know, whereas if you stub your toe in the morning,
you're talking about a recipe for eliminating fear.
possibly, yeah, possibly. But that was one of the techniques I used to do and still do.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 13, I bought a book when I was 13. It was in fact, it was my brother that purchased it. It was advertised as How to Be a Karate Black Belt in 12 Months. Yeah. That's what it was advertised as. But when the book came, it had Super Mind Training for Martial Arts by Dr. Dan Lee. And this book was basically a budget self-help book.
Yeah.
But I was 13 years old. So this book listed all the alleged studies that have been done on visualization and self-hypnosis and affirmations and all that kind of stuff. Listed all the alleged studies, whether they're right or not, I don't know. But I was a 13-year-old impressionable kid.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, do these self-hypnosis, i.e. incantations or affirmations or whatever you want to call them now in the new age stuff, but do these twice a day, do this ritual, get into this state, say these things, back it up with physical work every day, physical
Mm-hmm.
training. And it listed certain exercises, you know, like blindfolded shadow boxing and, you know, certain exercises that would definitely benefit you. A lot of that was visualization and things like that.
Right.
And I was keeping a log every day of what you did, which is why I had to come home from playing with my friends, because I knew that diary would have had a missing day. And it said, you got to do it every day for 12 months.
Yeah.
To be a karate black belt. So
Yeah.
I had to do it every day for 12 months.
You know, it's funny. I just bought, there's a guy named, here in the States, a guy named Brendan Burchard, and he runs an online outfit called High Performance Academy.
Hmm.
I just bought, in anticipation of next year, his 12-month planner, right? Where you write down everything. You know, it's so impressive to me to hear you talk about what you were doing at age 13, you know, and then what you were just talking about, the visualization exercises and you know, the incantations and what have you. When I discovered that Bruce Lee did that stuff as well,
yeah,
I was floored.
Did you discover that later as well? Because I discovered that after. It was like, wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I you know, I had seen you know, his My Definite Chief Aim, right? I had seen that, but it wasn't until 2006 or so that I found out where that came from. And you know, that's when I found out about Napoleon Hill and those guys. And then I go, holy crap, is there nothing that Bruce Lee wasn't into?
That's it. And you know, people were, you know, will say they're con men, etc., etc., and that might be true. However, for me, being a 13-year-old kid, reading a book by an alleged psychologist who's already got 4 black belts and whatever, follow this, you will be a karate black belt at this time. It's the belief. It's the belief. It's that no one told me, oh, that's nonsense.
Yeah.
I was just doing it, and then I just continued to do it. And to this day, I still, twice a day, I do exactly the same reprogramming techniques that they've done in that book. Still do it to this day.
Yeah. Right.
And why not? It works. The map is not the territory, right?
Yeah. See, and the thing is, here's something I've noticed since I've been, more active in social media and what have you. So the people who go, oh, Napoleon Hill, well, he's just like a rip-off artist, right? Okay, you just go, okay, well, what have you achieved? Nothing, right? Okay, so then you get the guys on social media and they're all being critical. It's like, oh, this and this and this. Okay, well, what have you achieved? Where's your video? Nothing.
Yeah, right.
But they got a lot of comments to make about things.
Everyone's got an opinion, and everyone's entitled to their opinion, right?
Yeah.
And like I say, it's research your own experience, because, I see green, but I don't know whether you see green. I see blue, but I don't know whether you see blue. And certainly someone would say synesthesia. Their interpretation of reality is completely different to mine, or maybe not.
Yeah. So let's finish up with this, because I'm looking at Inasano videos because I'm trying to help a friend find a particular saying of his. And I came across one where he's talking about Bruce Lee. Did you ever hear this? Sifu Dan says that, so as a fighter, the bell at the end of the round rings, you go back to the coach, you go back to the corner, and the coach says, your opponent is dropping his hands. He's doing this, he's doing that. You can't see it, but the third person can see it. Did you ever see this video? Sifu Dan says that Bruce Lee could stand in front of you and see you in the third person.
Yeah.
What are you supposed to do with that?
Well, I've only had that in a fight once, when I'm going like, oh, there you are down there. You're getting hit in the head. Hit me again, I'll come back.
Yeah.
But, no, that's interesting.
Yeah, that was phenomenal. When I heard him say that, and then and I'm watching it, and I'm just going, answer me this, because this is what I said to myself: where would my life be without Dan Inasano? So answer that.
Wow. It was part of my path. It was there was no other way. It was written in stone. There was no other way. I mean, once I'd seen him in Bruce Lee's fighting methods, my second batch of books that I got of Bruce Lee. Once I'd seen his picture in there with Bruce, it was like, I want to meet this guy. I've got to meet this guy and train with this guy. So I would have been 14 then, and then 5 years later at Bob Breen's Academy, I meet him. Excellent. And tick, 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 and then I get finally got a full instructorship under him, which was just not an end goal, but it was something that was always like my dream, always a dream of mine.
Yeah. Okay, let me ask you I said that would be the last question, but that never happens. So
you could go as long as you like, Dwight.
Okay, so I can't say that in my life, especially as a kid, that I went through stuff where I knew. Now, when I look back at it, I realize that I did know. When I think about stuff that I attached myself to, right? So I realized, but it never clicked at the time.
Right.
This is it, right?
Yeah.
So, shoot, now I lost my train of thought. I had a great question for you about that. Okay, there it is. Is there anything you would do differently if you could go back and do it over?
No, I can't think of.
I didn't think so.
Not.
Oh, I know one.
Oh, here we go.
I know one.
Got it.
11 months instead of 51 months to get married.
That would have been quicker, right? Could have beaten that.
Oh man.
No, I don't think I'd do anything different. I don't, and I possibly couldn't have done anything different.
Yeah.
There's some points where you, like I said, there were some things that I knew. I just kind of knew. I can't explain it. Like I say, I was an oddball. I was doing qigong and all that when I was 13, 14 years old. I was standing like a tree for an hour in the back garden at 6 in the morning. Of course, my parents were looking out, going, he shouldn't be. He'd be on his paper round by now. There's me.
Did you ever try to do a kung fu horse stance until you passed out?
Yes, yeah.
It took me 45 minutes. Yeah.
I don't think I made it to 45 minutes. I really don't.
Yeah, it took me 45 minutes. It's just ridiculous. Yeah.
Looking back on the things we've done as martial artists was really, really ridiculous, especially when it was old school. The old, and it was like, wow, you've got me punching concrete floor. My knuckles are all bleeding. I'm like, what's going on? Yeah. Well, mine are just flat. Look at the breaks on my hands. Look at the fractures on my hands. And massive.
Yeah. It's a thing, man. But yeah, but well, I mean, we could have had a 9-to-5 life. Can you imagine?
I've tried it. It was not good. But it was a means to an end. I needed to train. I needed to afford travel and training, so I had to quit education and get a job. Whatever job, didn't matter. So get a job in an office that will pay for my training fees.
Yeah.
And that's all it was about. It was about, can I afford to get to London and train?
Yeah. It's funny, but in the years that I've been doing the dialogues, I find we have so many similarities amongst the group of us, right? And so you'll say something and it will elicit a memory of mine. So when you talked about discounts on British Rail, just last night I was answering a question on Quora, and I was telling somebody about when I lived the life of discounts in the airline industry. And without that, I probably would not have gone to see Inasano. You know what I mean, right? So it's just to me, it's just fantastic the way so many of us have such commonalities on our path.
But that's not surprising. It's not surprising, really. We're all kind of attracted to the same guy, Bruce Lee, and Good Dan, that's actually giving us that information. I mean, we're so in debt to that guy. We really are so in debt to that guy.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you feel exactly the same way about Bob Breen and what your life would have been without him.
Oh yeah. Well, being with Bob, I mean, I was 17 when I joined Bob's academy, and they were all brawlers back then. Back in the early days, they were all. I mean, he had a handful of people in his class because it was all about fighting. It was all about getting down and dirty back then. And then what happened in the area that he actually had his school, they started adding the coffee bars and the art galleries. So it turned from like a East End gangland into quite a posh area.
Right. Yeah.
Like trendy. So obviously we attracted new people. So then the city folk, people that were working in the city, would then come in, and that became the new breed of students. So they didn't want broken noses and concussions, etc., etc. And I don't blame them, because it wasn't fun.
No, I mean I see. So you guys went through that transformation at the school?
Yeah. So we became a lot more technical. Certainly the next generation were a lot more technical, because they were interested, I think, more in learning. Here's the Jun Fan stuff. Here's the Kali stuff. Do you know what I mean? They were more so interested in learning the art, because I think they were not necessarily a more intellectual group, because certainly the bruisers, they were clever guys. They were clever guys, but they were also tough. They were tough guys. Which is quite, coming up in my late teens. That was great. But also Bob's Academy, it was like the Mecca back then. You'd have anytime a famous martial artist would come over, they'd go to a school. You know, Benny the Jet would come in. You'd have people that have competed versus Chuck Norris would come in. You'd have people from like the French Foreign Legion would come in for a week of training. Just every some guy you're like, yeah, this guy can motor.
So how did you guys manage that transition then? I mean, and no. Here's a better question.
I think it was a necessity.
Yeah.
I think it's a necessity because you can't run a gym. I mean, maybe now, insofar as fighting's a big deal, but back then you couldn't really run a martial arts gym with just bashing people. And it's not saying that we bashed. It's just it was a hardcore group. It was just that group were nice guys, but they were quite a hardcore group. Whereas you can run a business of martial arts where people can get to learn the art, you know, without getting too nitty gritty a bit. So I think the necessity came, you know, and I think we all matured because we all used to, when we're young, you all want to bash, don't you?
Yeah.
And over time you realize actually this is probably not that healthy. And now we know so much about the brain. So it's not healthy at all. But would I change it? No. I had 16 cage fights. Of course I wouldn't change it.
But what is your strategy for walking that line, balancing out the need for realism in training, but not going too far across the line where people are going home with concussion?
Well, you can mimic the pressure. The pressure can be mimicked. It doesn't need to be hard contact pressure. The pressure can be done through just consistency. Just someone in your face, just pat, 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 and you're tired. It's, you know, 30 minutes into the round, you're, but they're just on you, pat, pat, pat. Just play, but they can mimic that pressure, pushing you, shoving you, you know, roughing it up a little bit without the need for the brain trauma. I mean, I had 16 pro fights. I didn't once spar what I'd class as full contact.
Right.
Just because if I had a full contact spar, well then that's a fight. And I'm training for a fight. I don't want to fight for a fight. I'll certainly up the pace, but I never went to the point where I'm going to get massively injured during my training. Though we did, obviously we did. Never had so many injuries. Never had so many injuries other than through my fight career.
Okay. Well, I mean, so then you've hit on something, because there's always the discussion about the need for hard sparring, right? Is it really a need? Is it a necessity?
It depends. It depends what you're after. If you are after hard sparring, then it's a necessity, right? If someone comes into your gym and they're after hard sparring, then that's a necessity for them. So I think the end goal is different for each individual, right? Some people want to come and get healthy. They just want to go through healthy movements through a martial art. Maybe they want to learn a martial art system. You know, I've always been a fan of Bruce Lee. I'd love to learn his system of martial arts. I've read so much about it. That person's probably not want to climb into a cage.
Right.
No, they just want to learn the art. So I think that there needs to be a fine balance. And I think it's hard to have a school where you've got a few fighters and then the rest of the school are just, you know, day-to-day students. I think that's difficult. Because it's really hard. And I found that difficult, catering for the fighters and for the day-to-day people. Because the fighters, they need to be selfish. It's just part of the deal. They have to be, you know, selfish and think of themselves because they're fighting. So it is kind of difficult.
Yeah. So if somebody asked you, well, what's the formula for success in running a martial arts school?
Don't ask me. You're kidding me. Don't teach Jeet Kune Do. You know what? If you go to a karate guy and say, what can you teach me? I'll go, I'll teach you how to punch and kick and block stuff. You're like, oh wow, that's cool. You ask a JKD guy, what you're going to learn? You're going to learn the scientific method of Bruce Lee, the art of philosophy, where we'll learn, teach you to flow like water. And what? What are you talking about? Can I learn to punch and kick, right?
Yeah. Well, well, yeah. Okay, but you say don't ask you, but you've been doing it, so
Yeah, yeah.
you must have theorized something over the years.
I've just been winging it. Like, just winging it. I just, you know what? Again, I just do what I feel is right
Mhm.
at that time. That's what at least I try to. I try to be honest. What did Bruce Lee say? It's expressing yourself honestly. So I try to express myself honestly when I teach. I'll say why I'm teaching something, and also just in my life of running the academy, I'm just doing something that I know is healthy for people, which
Right.
is why I jumped on Zoom. When all this craziness kicked off,
Yeah.
it was like I didn't want to, but it will give a sense of normality to some people.
Yeah.
I know that some people will fold. Just it's tough. It's tough being locked away for a time. So I think it just kept some normality, even though it was through this medium. But at least we could chat, have a giggle.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. Okay. What time is it there? 9 o'clock?
9:15. We're doing all right.
Okay.
We're
All
good.
right. Okay. Well, no, let me not take up too much more of your time. But I really appreciate this. Okay, so you got to do this. You got to tell me the best way for somebody to reach out to you, and then you got to tell me who I should have on the program.
Oh, reach out to me, McLeodacademy@gmail.com, or you could go on my website. Oh, that's my website. Sorry, you could no, you go on my website, McLeodacademy.co.uk. My phone number's on there, and Facebook. Find me on Facebook,
Okay.
Neil McLeod or McLeod Academy on Facebook.
Okay. All right. And who should I get on the show? Who do you like to see me talk to?
Anyway, I'll probably name someone that's been on your show and I've missed them, right?
That's okay. That's okay. See, this is what I tell people all the time. I can do this forever because I can always come back around. Like I've had Rick Young, for example. I've only had him on once.
Yeah, you need him.
You know. Okay.
Rick's so awesome. Rick's so awesome. I mean, haven't even mentioned Rick. I mean, Rick used to come down to the academy and teach at the academy, Bob's Academy, for summer camps. We'd come down and they used to do 6-day summer camps where we'd sleep at the academy and just train all day.
Yeah.
Rick was fantastic.
One day I'm gonna task one of you guys to come up with the Rick Young is the UK equivalent of so and so from the US. Right? Phil Norman is the UK equivalent. Yeah, I'm gonna ask one of you guys to come up with that list.
Honestly, I don't think I could fit someone in Rick Young's shoes, really. I wouldn't like to. Yeah, all those guys, they're just so lovely. They all got their different personalities, but I mean, so far as martial arts goes, the Brits have got such a talent in martial arts.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was because we weren't there. We weren't in America. We weren't
Right.
in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
We always thought, right? We always thought they're doing it all over there. So we were just training and training and training and still training, still going.
Don't tell anybody I told you this, but I actually have a soft spot for all of you Britishers since I was born British, because I was born before independence in the islands, So when you say garage, right? So my students are going to go, oh, look, that guy says garage the same way Seafood Dwight does. But what you said there is true. I mean, in the time that I've been doing the dialogues, I've come to, I knew it, but now it's been presented to me. The wealth of talent, of martial art talent in England. It's ridiculous.
Huge. It is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And to a certain degree, it was all, a lot of it is self-directed because you weren't in the US.
Yeah.
You know, so you really had to you know, form stuff on your own. It's really impressive. It's really impressive.
But then we all feed off each other. I think that was part of it. We all feed off each other, which is great. You know, we've all been there to support each other.
Yeah. Cool. All right, man. I'm going to let you go, but I really, really appreciate this.
My pleasure. Anytime, Dwight. Anytime.
Okay. All right. You take care. Say hello to everybody for me. All right.
Will do, my friend. Take care.
Okay. All righty. All right. So that was episode 147 of the Jeet Kune Do Dialogues. Feel free, share, like, comment, ask questions. I'll ask Neil to go through and see if there's anything he needs to answer. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods. Coming up next week, I didn't even fill it out. Hang on one second. I'll do it from memory. Episode 148, I think it will be with Jay Clegane out of Canada, but I'll confirm all that with you guys during the week. All right. And he and I think we might be on similar time zone. So we'll probably be back at 6 p.m. Next Friday. At 6 p.m. next Wednesday, we'll do another issue of the I Love Jeet Kune Do broadcast. And so until then, this is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Do Rebel, signing off. You guys have a great weekend. See you soon. Talk soon. Take care.
And again, hush, 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 hush. Elbow, elbow, knee.
So now we're going to show some Junfan Trap, and this is from Bruce Lee's Jeet Kune Do. It's going to be a long combination. The reason I do the long combination is just to get a sweat on, just to get a flow, just to move your arms around. It's almost like taking a boxing pad work combination of, say, 10 to 20 shots. No one fights like that. You don't do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. No one fights like that. But it's fun, gets your cardio up, just gets you moving your limbs. So from here, we're going to start low. I'm going to receive this barrier here. Or it doesn't even need to be that. It could just be her reaction. Just like, so I go like this, and just, not even that, just brings her reaction down. She's just like, oh. And now I'm going to trap and hit here. But we're going to have her bring the arm. But it doesn't have to be the arm. It can just be her attention. I'm now going to slap and hit. She's going to block. She's going to block. 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 Yeah, like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then pat pat on the last one like that. Rachel can do the same back to me. She fake. 1, 2, 1, 2, up, like this. Again. Like so. Awesome.
Parish. You want me to pause it? Just yeah, you can do, man. Just focus.
Right, so, and big foot, start playing up a bit.
The thing is though, this camera's not very good for still shots.
No. Seconds.
Oh, nice. 15 seconds.
10 seconds, Rach. Keep going. Go, go, go. Hey. That's what you want, man. You want to fight your missus, you know. Oh, that's got it, mate. Nice one.
You say, look, if you want.
Yeah. Done.
Can't get white down.
Scrapes, mate. Nasty. You got anything, Neil? How you doing? You got anything?
Yeah, really good, really good.
No.
Marriage guidance.
No mercy.